Have you ever opened a utility bill and genuinely thought there was just a typo?
Oh, yeah. Like they added an extra zero by accident.
Exactly. You know that exact feeling.
Right.
You pull the paper out of the envelope or you click open that email attachment and you stare at the bolded number at the bottom.
Right.
You blink, maybe you rub your eyes and you just think to yourself, did I accidentally leave my oven on with the door wide open for an entire month?
It is a very specific, deeply relatable sinking feeling, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we inherently expect utility bills to fluctuate a little bit with the seasons, right?
Sure, yeah.
You get a higher cooling bill in July, a higher heating bill in January.
Right.
But when the baseline number jumps so dramatically that it just breaks your mental budget,
Yeah.
it feels less like a bill for services rendered and more like an error code in the system.
It really does feel like a mistake. But what if it isn't? What if that number is part of a deliberate, calculated, and frankly massive shift in how much it simply costs to keep the lights on in a modern household?
That is the big question.
Right. And that is our mission for today's deep dive.
Mm.
We are looking at a passionate, highly detailed video message from a creator who goes by Joe the Solar Guy.
Yeah, Joe.
And what Joe is unpacking in this video is the hidden, unexpectedly high-tech reason why electric bills, specifically right now in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio, are just skyrocketing.
And, Joe isn't just venting frustration here. He brings a lot of receipts.
Lots of receipts.
Yeah, he's looking at the structural economic causes behind these numbers. And ultimately, he uses that data to pitch a very localized, personal solution to what he frames as this massive, uncontrollable grid issue.
But before we get into the heavy data he presents, I really want to talk about the tone of this source material.
Oh, the tonal shift is striking.
It really is. Joe points out right at the start of the video that he is usually a pretty upbeat guy. He says normally he's out in the field, he's up on a roof somewhere, he's laughing and joking with people about the benefits of solar energy.
Right.
But in this video, he is sitting alone in his office. He is completely serious. He actually says, "Today, this is serious."
Yeah, it's intense.
It instantly reminded me of getting a text from your accountant that just says, "We need to talk. Call me."
Oh, that is the worst text to get.
Right. You instantly know the fun is over, the jokes are over, and you need to pay very close attention to whatever comes next.
And that gravity is clearly an intentional choice on his part.
Wow.
As we look at the timeline he lays out, I mean, you can understand why he feels that urgency is warranted.
Yeah, totally.
The context here is crucial for understanding his message. This video was filmed right at a breaking point for consumers in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio.
The third increase. Right.
Exactly. According to Joe's data, they're being hit with their third unprecedented rate increase in a very short window. And this latest one is kicking in on June 1st.
Okay, let's unpack this timeline of bill shock because the sequence of these hikes is staggering.
It really is.
We aren't talking about a gradual boiling frog situation where, inflation slowly bumps the price up over a decade. Joe's timeline shows a rapid-fire sequence.
Oh, boom, boom.
Right. There was a major price increase last June. Then, just 6 months later in December, another price increase.
Wow.
And now, June 1st, a third increase is hitting the local grid.
I mean, 3 major rate hikes in the span of 12 months is incredibly disruptive to any household budget.
Oh, completely.
And to back up his claims about how severe this trend is, Joe references a white paper he compiled.
Yeah, the tired document.
Right. He tells his viewers that if they leave a comment on his video with the word tired, which, by the way, is a brilliant piece of marketing because it captures the exact consumer sentiment right now, he will send them this document.
So smart.
And he notes that this white paper cites 22 different sources.
Yeah, and these aren't just obscure blogs or whatever. He specifically mentions pulling data from the NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and the NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council.
Those are major established institutions.
Right.
Typically, you see organizations like the NREL cited in discussions about climate change or the transition to green energy. But here, Joe is pulling from their institutional data purely for economic forecasting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. He is using their macro-level tracking of energy trends to basically validate what everyday people in Ohio and Pennsylvania are feeling right in their wallets.
And the aggregate data from those sources paints a picture that is almost hard to process. Like, here's the jaw-dropping statistic he pulls from that white paper.
Let's hear it.
If your electric bill was $100 in 2019, right before COVID hit, that exact same kilowatt-hour usage is probably closer to $300 right now.
That is insane.
A 300% jump in just 5 years.
Which fundamentally alters the cost of living in those regions. I mean, you can't just absorb that without feeling it.
Okay, I want to pause and push back on this for a second, or at least look at it from a different angle.
Sure.
Because tripling a basic utility in 5 years, it defies how we normally think about household economics. I mean, it's like replacing a garden hose with an industrial fire hose.
Good analogy.
Right. Electricity is an inelastic good. It's not like a streaming service where if the price doubles, you just cancel it and read a book instead.
Right. You can't just unplug your refrigerator.
Exactly. You can't tell your kids to stop using the lights. You have to absorb that cost. So how is a 200 to 300% jump over 5 years mechanically possible without the entire local economy just collapsing?
Well, that is the core friction point Joe is highlighting. For a lot of families on fixed incomes, it literally isn't sustainable.
Right.
It means actively choosing between keeping the house cool in the summer and buying groceries.
Wow.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the data in Joe's white paper suggests this isn't a temporary spike that will just correct itself.
Oh, no.
The experts he cites are predicting that this exact same massive price jump is going to happen again in the next 2 to 3 years.
Wait, let me make sure I'm getting this right. They are predicting that a bill that went from $100 to $300 is going to do that same multiple again.
Yes.
So we're looking at potentially a $900 bill for the same usage by the end of the decade?
According to the trajectory mapped out in his sources, yes.
That is terrifying.
The trend line is moving aggressively upward. And Joe uses this alarming projection to pivot his audience to the next logical question.
Which is?
If everyday bills have tripled and they are set to jump again, that money is not vanishing into thin air.
Oh, right.
It is actively leaving the local economy and going somewhere.
Which brings us to the corporate balance sheets that Joe exposes in his video.
Right. Follow the money.
Exactly. He argues that if you want to understand the modern utility landscape, you have to follow the money. So let's look at the math he breaks down for just one of those incremental price increases.
Just one of them.
Just one. He isolates a roughly 20% bump across the board. Just that single hike generated $1.6 billion in gross revenue for the power companies in that region.
And Joe makes a point to emphasize the scale there. Billion with a B.
With a B.
And he doesn't stop at gross revenue, which is a really important distinction.
Right, because gross revenue just tells us how much money came in the door.
Exactly. If their cost to run the grid also went up by $1.6 billion, then the company's just breaking even.
Right.
But Joe looks at the net operating income. He notes that the electric companies in the region posted a net operating income of $1.02 billion.
Okay, I want to clarify exactly what net operating income means in this specific context, because Joe defines it in very stark terms.
He does.
He told his audience that's how much cash they made, that their shareholders made. He is framing this as pure profit after the operating expenses are paid.
Right, expenses like paying linemen, buying raw materials, doing routine maintenance, all that was already paid for.
Exactly. He is arguing that this isn't a case of utilities just passing along the rising cost of copper wire just to survive. He says they are walking away with over $1 billion in profit while local families struggle to pay their bills.
His framing there is highly intentional. He is building an argument about fairness.
Yeah.
And he uses these numbers to pose a very pointed, almost uncomfortable rhetorical question to the viewer.
Let's hear it.
He asks, why did the Public Utility Commission, the PUC, approve a third price increase for today when these utility companies just posted $1 billion in profit?
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because my immediate reaction to Joe's question is to just assume corruption, right?
Sure, it sounds shady.
It feels like a rigged game. Like a referee letting the winning team change the rules in the middle of the game to run up the score.
I like that analogy.
But the PUC is a regulatory body. They have a legal mandate. So mechanically, how does a regulatory commission justify rubber stamping a rate hike for a highly profitable monopoly?
It's a great question.
They must have some structural, on-paper justification for why everyday people need to open their wallets even wider.
They do. And it comes down to a concept called cost of service regulation.
Cost of service regulation, okay.
Right. Which is basically how monopolies, like utility companies, are governed in the United States.
Okay.
Under this system, a utility company is legally allowed to recover its costs for building and maintaining the grid,
Makes sense.
plus a guaranteed rate of return, basically a profit margin on capital investments.
Wait, so if they build a new substation, they are legally guaranteed to make a profit on it?
Precisely.
Wow.
And the PSC's primary mandate isn't necessarily keeping prices as low as humanly possible. Their real mandate is ensuring grid stability and reliability.
Keeping the lights on.
Right. If the utility company comes to the PUC and says there is massive new demand on the grid, and if we don't build new transmission lines and substations immediately, the grid will fail and we will have blackouts, well, the PUC is structurally obligated to approve those infrastructure upgrades.
And because of that guaranteed rate of return, the utility company is actually financially incentivized to build as much new expensive infrastructure as the PUC will allow them to.
Exactly. That is the structural loop Joe is pushing against.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily like cartoonish corruption in a smoky back room.
Right.
It's an outdated regulatory framework from the 20th century colliding with modern energy demands. The utilities say, we need to build to prevent blackouts. The PUC says approved, and the cost of that new infrastructure is passed right down to the ratepayers.
The everyday citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains the how. It explains the mechanism of how these rate hikes get approved, despite massive profits. But it still leaves a huge question.
What's driving the demand?
Yes, what is driving this sudden, massive need for new infrastructure? What is this overwhelming new demand that threatens to break the grid in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania if they don't spend billions upgrading it?
So this is where Joe's video introduces a really fascinating modern twist.
Okay.
You might expect the culprit to be, aging 1950s power plants, or a shift away from coal or inflation on raw materials.
That's what I would assume.
Right. But the culprit Joe points to is artificial intelligence.
Right.
Yes. He claims the unprecedented grid demand causing these rate hikes is being driven by localized AI data centers.
AI. I have to admit, when I first saw that in his video, it felt a little disconnected.
How so?
Because we tend to think of the internet, the cloud, and especially AI as completely abstract.
Right. Invisible.
Yeah, they exist on our phones, they seem weightless. You type a prompt into a chatbot, it spits out an essay or a piece of code in 2 seconds, and it feels like magic.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it has a physical footprint in Western Pennsylvania.
What's fascinating here is the collision of the digital and the physical worlds.
Oh, definitely.
We use terms like cloud computing, which implies something light and airy.
Mm-hmm.
But the physical reality of the cloud is incredibly heavy.
Right.
Training and running massive language models requires massive data centers, and these are filled with thousands of state-of-the-art supercomputers operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And from what I understand, an AI query uses significantly more power than a traditional internet search, right?
Substantially more. I mean, some estimates suggest a single AI query uses up to 10 times the electricity of a standard Google search.
10 times?
Yeah, and all those servers running nonstop generate a tremendous amount of heat.
Oh, so they need cooling.
Exactly, which requires massive industrial-scale cooling systems. So the power demand isn't just large, it is colossal, and it's constant.
But why Pennsylvania and Ohio? Why is Joe seeing this specific regional spike right there?
Well, tech companies look for specific conditions when building these data centers.
Like what?
They need relatively cheap land, access to water for those massive cooling systems, and historically stable power grids.
Oh, okay.
The Rust Belt and the Midwest often fit that profile perfectly. So these massive tech conglomerates are building localized data centers in these specific regions to power global AI tools.
Which brings us right back to the rate hikes and how everyday people end up paying for this.
Yep.
I want to try an analogy to make sure I understand the mechanism here. How a data center moving to town raises my personal electric bill.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you live in a large apartment building where utilities are split among the tenants.
Okay.
Suddenly, a massive commercial bakery moves into the ground floor. They install industrial ovens running 224/7.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Because the bakery draws so much power, the landlord has to completely rewire the entire building so it doesn't burn down.
Right.
But instead of charging the bakery for the rewiring, the landlord takes the cost of that massive electrical upgrade and divides it equally among all the tenants' rent.
Wow.
You don't work at the bakery, you don't get free bread, you just live upstairs. but suddenly your rent triples to subsidize the infrastructure the bakery needed to operate.
Yeah.
Is that basically what is happening with these AI data centers?
That is a highly accurate way to visualize a concept called rate-based socialization.
Rate-based socialization.
Yes. The utility company has to build massive new transmission lines and substations to accommodate the AI data center's immense power draw. And under the regulatory framework we discussed earlier, the PUC allows the utility to basically socialize the cost of those grid upgrades across all the ratepayers in that territory.
So Joe's argument is that everyday folks in Ohio and Pennsylvania are effectively subsidizing the infrastructure for the global AI race just by turning on their living room lamps.
That is exactly his argument. The person just trying to keep their refrigerator running is absorbing the pass-through costs of the tech industry's rapid expansion.
That is wild.
The tech companies get the data processing, the utility monopolies get a guaranteed return on the new infrastructure they built, and the local resident gets a bill that jumps from $100 to $300.
When you lay it out mechanically like that, it creates an overwhelming sense of helplessness.
It really does.
I mean, if you are a single homeowner facing down an unstoppable global force like AI demand, which is then legally rubber-stamped by a state utility commission and executed by a billion-dollar monopoly,
yeah.
what can you possibly do? You can't just opt out of electricity.
Which is exactly the feeling of powerlessness that Joe is trying to tap into in the final section of his video.
Right.
He doesn't just want to outline the problem. He wants to offer a localized solution. After mapping out this massive systemic grid issue, he pivots to his own business.
Sunny Solar.
Exactly, Sunny Solar.
Right. He points viewers to his website, sunnysunnysolar.com, and offers a consultation to see if a home qualifies for solar installation.
Yep.
He frames it as a no-pressure, no-hassle consultation, and he makes a point to emphasize that if you schedule through the site, you will be meeting with him personally, not a random call center.
Let's analyze that pivot objectively for a second.
Yeah.
Because from a consumer behavior standpoint, it's a fascinating approach.
Oh, totally.
Think about the narrative he just constructed. He spent the first 3/4 of the video talking about billion-dollar utility conglomerates, massive global AI data centers, and bureaucratic state commissions.
Which are all inherently cold, faceless, untouchable entities.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for how he positions his company?
He positions Sunny Solar as the exact opposite of everything he just described. He proudly notes that his company is a local, family-owned, veteran-owned business based right there in western Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's smart.
He isn't just selling solar panels based on a spreadsheet of financial returns. He is offering an actionable way to regain agency.
That is a really sharp distinction. He is tapping into a psychological desire to basically detach from a system that feels hostile.
Yes. When a consumer feels entirely at the mercy of a system where they absorb the costs of corporate expansion while utilities post billion-dollar profits, taking control of your own power generation ceases to be just about the ROI of solar panels.
It's deeper than that.
It becomes a declaration of independence.
It's a way of saying, I am opting out of your rate hikes. I am generating my own power. It's taking that apartment building rent increase we talked about and deciding to just buy your own generator so you don't have to rely on the landlord anymore.
Completely. By emphasizing his veteran roots and his local family business, Joe's argument is that decentralized power putting solar on your own roof is a form of self-reliance.
Yeah.
It is a protective measure against the unpredictable whims of tech billionaires and regulatory commissions. Whether or not solar is the perfect financial fit for every single home, the psychological appeal of his pitch is incredibly potent right now.
It really is a compelling narrative arc, and honestly, it explains why he was sitting so seriously in his office at the start of the video.
Definitely.
We started this deep dive wondering why a utility bill might look like a typo, and Joe's data provided a pretty sobering answer.
It did.
We traced the journey from electric bills jumping 300% since 2019 to the structural reasons why utility companies can post billion-dollar profits while simultaneously pushing through multiple rate hikes in a single year.
And we also unpacked the hidden mechanics of rate-based socialization, showing how the massive physical demands of AI data centers are straining local grids in places like Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Resulting in those pass-through costs for everyday residents.
Right.
And finally, we looked at how Joe uses that systemic frustration to position his local veteran-earned company, Sunny Solar, as a path to energy independence, a way to literally unplug from a grid that feels increasingly unpredictable.
Joe's video serves as a fascinating microcosm of a much larger global shift, And it leaves you with a lingering thought to ponder long after we finish our analysis today.
What's that?
Well, if the invisible cutting-edge demands of artificial intelligence are already fundamentally altering the cost of basic home utilities in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania right now,
Yeah.
how might other hidden infrastructure demands from future technological advancements reshape the basic cost of living in your own community tomorrow?
Wow. It is a heavy thought to leave on because the next time you open a utility bill and you genuinely think there must be a typo, well, you might realize it's not a mistake at all. It might just be the hidden cost of the future showing up right at your front door.